is Beyonce gonna get in the metaverse?
How about this?
What do celebrities do all the time? Literally, so I was in Tulum. Literally, I passed by 3 or 4 billboards. They were all Beyonce and Jay-Z advertising for Tiffany's jewelry.
Yeah.
3 or 4. Mm-hmm. Celebs love money. Okay.
How about this?
So they're gonna pay.
What if Madden created a game in the metaverse and allowed you to have a player, and you could just pay for upgrades? You could just like as much money as you wanted for speed and for strength. You wouldn't play? You wouldn't play in the metaverse?
This man, this man trying to play flag football.
The problem with Madden is Madden at one point every year it got better and better as far as visual.
Welcome to First and 15, the only podcast that's trying to get you paid. I'm here with two-time FFPC champion AB. Alongside him is our dynasty guru, Dio the Machine. Guys, listen, this has been a long season, but it's over.
We back.
Yes. We got to talk about the playoffs a little bit, but before we talk about the playoffs, let's talk about how the season went. What did we learn from this season? And I want to start our first question. What's the biggest mistake you made in not grabbing that 500 bands?
Man, biggest mistake is not three-peating. Not having 3 trophies up here. Man, I'm so upset. For me, I think mostly it came down to waivers. I just think, I feel like I did not really hit the way I wanted to on waivers, whether it was the Cordell Patterson to get me through the regular season or an Amon-Ra St. Brown to, carry me to the title. I had these guys on a few teams here or there, but really, those type of guys you want to be overweight on because it's really those guys, those like flex positions that are going to put you over the edge. The winning teams or the elite teams, most of them obviously had the Debo Samuels or the Cooper Kupps of the world. So having those flex positions, I think, was so key. That and, the other end of that waivers was, not being able to hold on to certain guys. And I don't necessarily know that it was a mistake, but it was just sort of, a sequence of unfortunate events. One of those guys in particular was my highest owned guy going into the season, which was Rashad Penny. Mm-hmm. We talked about it literally on a weekly basis, any whispers on when he's coming back, on how he's, how healthy he is. And then even when he came back, we had him basically on all of our teams, and we stuck with him. We waited. And, of course, we had to play the Pete Carroll game and the running back carousel game there. And it's just one of those things with fantasy football. I think with any given player, really at any point in time, either whether it's within 1 year or over multiple years, you're going to be right. That player could, just be garbage for, a couple of years. You could have been high on Cordell Patterson when he came out in Dynasty. And he was just terrible, his first couple of years in the league, or not really usable from a fantasy standpoint. But this was the year,
right.
And so that's kind of how Rashad Penny was. So ultimately, it was an L, but it was one of those things where at the right time, say I wasn't high on him, but I was like, you know what, let me take a shot on him. He would have been like a league winner. So for me, I think waivers was where I think I could have done a little bit better job in terms of hopefully getting me over that hump. And that's something I'll definitely be focusing on for next year.
Now, Dio, we almost sat you in the center seat because you seem to be the big winner. He should have been in the center seat. You were pretty much the big winner out of the group this week. This season, you had a lot of teams to make the playoffs, make a real run at the tournament. But what caused you to not necessarily
Hold up. We need stats. How many teams did you have?
I didn't put stats last time either, man.
I know.
Don't do stats.
Okay. How many teams did you have, and how many teams made the actual playoffs?
Man, look, I don't do stats, but
ballpark.
Ballpark. No, I'm not here for that.
Okay, this man, 80% clip, 80% made the playoffs. 80% plus. Let's just put it that way.
Man, look, I don't do stats. Anyways, but
he had a lot of teams.
But real quick, the point Abby just made as far as Rashad Penny, because I actually was high on Rashad Penny coming into the season from a dynasty standpoint. I don't know if y'all recall, we actually talked about on the pod, we were talking about the fact that the Seahawks hadn't brought in anybody new to join Carson. They paid Carson, but it's a committee type league now in backfields, and they hadn't made any significant moves considering the fact that Penny was in a contract year. Remember, he was a first round pick, so they expected. I mean, they knew he was talented. So Penny was a good player to have on your team, but the problem is Penny, for majority of the season, was not usable.
Yeah.
Not only not usable, he was barely rosterable.
Yeah.
He was in and out of the lineup. The games he did play, he wasn't producing anything. So I wouldn't say it's a mistake to not have drafted nor held him, because I get it.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't even want to say if it was a mistake. I think if the odds were in your favor, you happen to pick him up
at the right time.
Yeah.
Because I think in every league, there was a point where Rashad Penny probably hit the waiver wire.
Yep.
I'm not going to obviously say 100%, but in most leagues, even if a team drafted him from the jump, they likely dropped him at one point.
Yeah.
And even if players ended up picking him up, they probably dropped him again later because, shoot, I'll tell you, for me personally, I had some teams where I did that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So the question is not, I didn't keep him long enough, because even if you would have let him go, you probably would have had a chance to get him. The question, the thing was, were you fortunate enough to have picked him up at the right time? Because once he came in and he got that job and got the work, it was gangbusters.
Yeah.
So
and we talked about it. And Pete Carroll's one of those guys, he's hard to listen to.
Right.
But there was something about it, to me, it just everything lined up perfectly. Carson was out. Collins was hurt. Pete Carroll, people were talking about whether or not he was going to lose his job. The offense was struggling. And we know Pete Carroll likes to run the ball, and we know that he was one of the primary guys behind drafting Rashad Penny. So that's when I sent that text message out to the group. I was like, that first week he went off, where we just weren't sure whether or not to start him. I said, this just seems to be the perfect time to start him.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to take that leap of faith and put him in the lineup. And, I definitely didn't see him producing the way that he has been doing thus far. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes next year.
And keep in mind, he is, and like we just said, he's a free agent, so it's going to be real interesting. But as far as the mistakes I feel like I made, real simple. I did not have enough Cooper Kupp.
Oh, yeah.
I did not have enough Jamar Chase. I didn't have enough JT. And it's obviously those are the players that actually hit this season. But I guess really what I'm saying is I didn't diversify enough to
in the right way.
To have a fair share of those players.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. None of them were players where I was off. Or I feel like wasn't good. It's just that it's weird. Like, say for instance, the Rams. I like that they brought in Stafford.
Yeah.
I've kind of been a fan of Robert Woods' games for a while.
Yeah.
When in reality, Kupp and Woods' games are not that significantly different. They're both guys that can be possession receivers, get a lot of targets, and can be really good run after the catch. But when it came to drafts, I was drafting Robert Woods like crazy because I was just so biased to Robert Woods and not saying to myself, these guys are literally, to some extent, in the same type of position. It can go either way.
Yeah.
Right.
The term you like to use, hedge. I could have hedged and said, you know what? Yeah, I like Robert Woods so much, and I got a fair amount of him. Now let me start focusing on getting more Kupp.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Yeah.
And the tide went the other way on me. Same thing with Jamar Chase. I was getting a lot of T. Higgins.
Yeah.
But again, I was getting T. Higgins because I liked the situation.
Right.
And I had a few Chase. The problem with me with Chase is Chase was going so high.
Yeah.
And it was like a rookie wide receiver going that high.
Yeah.
But still, I liked the situation. But I was focusing more on Higgins.
Yeah.
I had a good enough Higgins. I could have said, okay, let me now get more Chase just to even out, because I might have been, I was on the right wavelength.
Yeah.
Just I didn't pick the right option there.
Yeah.
Same thing with the coach running back. When the season started, I didn't like JT being taken as high as he was going, and in retrospect, it probably wasn't even high enough.
Yep.
But I just didn't like where he was going. He was going like in the mid first.
Yeah.
But there got to a point where he started going in the back of the first.
Yeah.
Remember that controversial draft you had? You got him in the second.
The second.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and he started living around back into the first, early second. I could have said, you know what? I wasn't getting him before. Now let me go in and start stacking up. But I wasn't. So those are the mistakes I feel like, because I feel like I had the guys I locked in on.
Yeah.
And for me, I was more excited about the fact that the guys that I was locked in on, they were slipping.
Yeah.
So I was getting this guy in the fifth before. Now I'm able to get him in six.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
That's where I was
And
happy. So
And let me just piggyback off that real quick before I forget this. Season 2, one of the things that I think that we need to hit on and really talk about is the idea of diversification. Because I think there are ways that I don't want to diversify in terms of just trying to get every player that's out there, but there are ways that I do want to diversify. And the point that you brought up between Kupp and Woods, or a T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, because it could have been a situation where Kupp was still balling out, but Kupp was the one that got hurt.
Exactly.
And so those
would have been Woods'
exactly.
world, you know what I'm saying?
So those are situations where I need to learn to be better in terms of, diversifying and not necessarily going all in on one player when both have a significant chance of succeeding. You're never going to be on every single player that hits, and I think that's okay. But you also don't want to discount players that have that potential of hitting.
Right.
Also, another thing as far as waivers are concerned, and I didn't make this mistake this year because I actually did pretty well on waivers. But a lesson I learned from me doing as well as I did is take chances on as many places as you can, especially when they're cheap.
Yeah.
When I picked up Dearness Johnson, it was a chance pickup, but he was so cheap at the time.
That was a good call.
It wasn't I didn't have to worry about the next week when it became expensive. And because even when he was a waiver wire ad, he wasn't a sure thing.
Yeah.
He was expensive to some extent, but still, you weren't sure, is he going to hit?
Yeah,
I remember us having that discussion, Dearness or Devontae Freeman.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it was still we don't know.
Yeah.
But the fact that I was able to get him so early when he was, I got him for $1 or so.
Yeah. Same thing with Cordell Patterson.
Now, exactly. Now I see how it play out. I liked it. I got this league winner for nothing. I still have all this money.
Yeah.
Well, that takes me to the next thing. Let's talk about process for a second. Would you guys change anything about the process, about how you went into the season, how you drafted, just the overall process of building these teams?
Oh, absolutely. Man, y'all thought I was hungry before. Man, I do not like losing. As crazy as it sounds to not be able to win a third time in a row, I am pissed off about it. I'm ready to draft for 2022 right now. But in all seriousness, I think last year I definitely took some time off just for a variety of different reasons, just to relax and kind of get away from it. This year, you'll take a little bit of time off, but I think what I'm going to try to do is really stay up with the news. I'm going to do a little bit more from a dynasty standpoint as far as understanding and getting a really good look at the players that are coming in. I'm still going to wait until the draft before I fully evaluate it, because I'm a strong believer in that where they go is more important than who they are in many situations. But I'm just going to, I'm going to start the process a lot earlier on. And I think one thing that I'm going to incorporate this year that I think I actually did the years before, but just kind of fell off this year, is I'm going to do more best balls to start off, even if it's the cheap dollar best ball. And when I do the best ball, I'm going to do it in a way where I'm seeing every single pick that's being taken. Not necessarily just worried about my team, but seeing every single pick that's being taken. So I make sure that I understand all the players, or really have a good assessment of all the players that are in the player pool. And I think that'll do I'll do a better job of being prepared when I enter FFPC or the NFFC, depending on what large field tournaments that I enter. Because I felt like this year, not doing the best ball and then just jumping straight into FFPC. And I saw it, my first few teams were just they really weren't that good. And I don't think many of those teams made the playoffs. But then once I got comfortable, once I got familiar with the player pool,
Same here.
Those teams just sort of kind of took. So starting that process earlier, and I think incorporating best ball will allow me to have a better chance. But otherwise, I think everything else is pretty much status quo. I'm not upset at all about, not being on certain players. The winning team this year, I think, drafted one team in the FFPC.
Right.
I think the main event team that won, those guys, they drafted an unbelievable team. But I want to say that team had Joe Burrow, and I want to say it was picked up off the waivers. If I'm wrong, y'all let me know. But I don't even think they drafted Joe Burrow. So, there's a lot of different ways to win. And I think that the way that I constructed, my teams, the players that I was on, the players that I would, that I decided to fade, I think for the most part, I was, what I like to consider, better than the field. I never think I'm going to be 100%. I just need to be better than most, better than the rest of the field. And I think from that standpoint, if I were to go through and do my own personal rankings, I think I was, I did pretty good. So, but best ball starting a little bit earlier, I think that's what I'm gonna do mostly going into 2022.
Dio, anything that you would change about the process going into the season?
Going into the season, I was thinking,
or just preparing for the season.
I was thinking in season, but going into the season, no. I think I did everything great. I'll be honest with you. I think this year, I think we did
48-53.
I think this year, probably the best I've ever been in fantasy, only because of maybe this show, us constantly being able to bounce ideas. Because I have my own. I've always had my process. I do my own thing in my own little cave.
Yeah.
But being able to shout my craziness to something else, getting feedback, because the feedback told me two things. Number one, it told me, first of all, is it something other people? Well, let me not say two things, but it told me, number one, it's are other people feeling what I'm feeling? Like, is it something? Is this a similar sentiment? Am I chalk for what I'm saying? Yeah. The other thing is, it tells me, am I so crazy that I'm tripping? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, like, man, this, like, you're really off the wall with it, or because sometimes I'm so convinced of things, like it don't matter what the response is. I'm so sure of it. So when I get a response where it's like people ain't on it, I'm excited. I was like, oh, so I've just found this first. Right, you know, so that's what I'm getting like, okay, so I'm on it before the rest of the field is on it. That's what I'm really like, what can I do with this information? You know, I start trying to get in the lab. So again, but I like the way we were kind of bounce ideas. I dove in deeper. It was almost like, I think with me and Abby, and now with you and Dorsey, I think our competitive juices flowed a little bit more this year than normal. Because like you were making a comment in one of our pods in the past, as far as one day you were just trying to count how many texts we had.
Oh yeah.
Last year, me and Abby weren't texting that much. No. We text a lot, but not that much.
Yeah.
And when we first started, you weren't texting as much, and Dorsey wasn't texting as much.
Right.
I think next year, if all four of us stayed, and then we'll probably add somebody else. I think we might go even harder. So I feel like this year I did the best. Now, of course, it's always a building thing, like brick by brick. I feel like every year that passes by, I get closer to whatever the big thing is in my life is going to be. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? People become millionaires any age. You can win it when you're young, win it when you're old, but every time you play, you're getting closer to that time you end up winning, right? So I do think it's brick by brick. But as far as in-season process, because again, that's what I thought the question you were asking me is, I need to learn, and I haven't really learned how to yet, but I'm still trying to master how to work using my fab dollars correctly. And especially, I have a big problem when I have a whole lot of leagues, because I end up bidding the same way. But I know the best way for me to approach fab dollars is how everybody bids in my specific leagues. Right. There's some leagues where people bid high. You know what I'm saying? There's some leagues where people bid real low. You know what I'm saying? If I paid attention to how each league is bidding, I can probably work my waiver wire better. But again, that's more so me being lazy, just trying to learn from my mistakes. But I think that's where I need to work on my process.
All right. Well, it's time to move on to the playoffs. Listen, FFPC does a playoff challenge where it's not a best ball, but it's essentially your entire roster is accumulating.
I wasn't gonna play this year, man.
You wasn't?
I wasn't gonna play this year,
but you ended up playing.
I ended up playing.
You can't stay away.
Yeah, I need it. Yeah,
gotta have
that crack. I just needed it. I for a long time. Like when y'all were talking about it, I wasn't even paying attention because I didn't care about the matchups. I was just gonna watch the playoffs, just watch it.
Yeah.
But
just be a fan.
Yeah. Don't you miss those days though?
Not really.
There was time.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Little bit. That's what I do with my Texans.
Yeah, before the playoff challenge, because I just started the playoff challenge, last year?
Yeah.
Or maybe the year before? Before that, there was no playoff challenge in my world, so I was able to watch comfortably. I wanted to live that life again.
It was your off season.
Yeah, exactly. Like now I can relax and just watch it. Now the playoff challenge is like, I got to be stressed again. Got to watch every game, every play and stuff.
Yeah, so of all of the teams that make the playoffs, you're to choose one player from each team, and the player with the highest points wins another $500,000 pot. Yeah. Obviously, with the format, two teams cannot be rostered. AB, what are the two teams that you're fading heavy going into the playoffs?
Probably a team that most people are fading. That would be the Philadelphia Eagles for the most part. And the second team is, it for the most part depends. Sometimes it's the Steelers. Sometimes it is the Cardinals, believe it or not. I think
Same
I maybe
here.
have one team that I potentially am fading them. And then I would say the other team that I'm potentially fading would be the Patriots.
Okay.
So those are that's usually the pool of teams where I'm, if I'm not rostering, it's coming from that. But then there's also the partial fade too. So those teams also go into the partial fade, and the partial fade for me is basically rostering, a player or position from one of those teams in the kicker or defensive spot. So
Okay.
That's interesting to me because when I hear that, because here's the thing with this playoff challenge, it's like this playoff challenge to me is totally different approach than redraft. I think this is more DFS approach, DraftKings approach, which we play all the time. I love DraftKings. So when I'm hearing Abby say that, because I have my own thoughts. I haven't bounced my thoughts. This is the first time I was talking.
Real quiet.
Yeah, this is the first time I was really putting our thoughts out there about
we all about to hear this for the first time.
But again, I be in my lab, man. I be in my lab trying to block out the noise because I feel like things bias people so much, and I'm a victim of it. Like I understand that's a fault of mine, so I rather just kind of have the earmuffs.
I've been pushing propaganda too. So.
So when I hear Abby say that, because honestly, if you were asking me that same question, you said what are the two teams? Abby just went off like 6 for whatever reason. Yeah. My two would have been what was the first thing you said? Eagles and Cardinals. Those are my two.
I agree with you.
But I thought the world wasn't on the Cardinals. I thought people thought maybe the Cardinals were a favorite. I think they actually are a favorite. Maybe I'm missing.
I don't think that.
Okay, I thought people were high on the Cardinals. But I think everybody's off the Eagles.
Right.
But I thought my Cardinals was my secret. But now that he said that, what my mind now tells me is
maybe I need to rethink.
Yeah, now I got to pivot. Because in a contest like this, again with DFS and DraftKings, the way I approach my daily sports is I try to be against the grain. I mean, I do that with all things, I guess. But I try to be contrarian. I don't want to be chalk. You know what I'm saying? I want to be ahead of the field, not with the field.
Yeah.
So if I'm hearing him say that and he's thinking that way, because again, he like you just said, he be pushing propaganda.
Right.
He reads stuff. He sees stuff.
Yeah.
So if he's saying that means probably there's a whole demographic of people that probably agree with what he's saying.
Well, I will say this. When I put together my playoff teams, this was actually really just me straight off the dome.
Okay.
Because I feel like this is very different than preparing for the regular season.
Okay.
To me, I don't really need anything else.
Okay.
I have 17 weeks of NFL games where I've watched almost every single play from every single team.
Okay.
So what I did was like immediately after that Rams the Chargers Raiders game, immediately I went and filled out my bracket. And then when I filled out the bracket, I mean, like I had to really sit there and think, and then I was just like, wow. And I initially thought, I was like, okay, I think I'm contrarian here. I think I'm against the field here. So rather than kind of saying, okay, I got to come up with all these wild, or these, variant plays, try and get, a random player in here or there from a team. I said, you know what? I think I differ just enough from the field that I'm going to have a strong core that's probably going to be chalk. Yeah. But then I'm going to focus on these areas where I think I'm a little bit different. Yeah. And then kind of go from there.
But when you said that, and then Chris also backdoors like, I'm off the Cardinals too. So now my mind's like, damn.
But that's literally one team, and I think I have like 8 or 9 teams. That's one team that may not have a Cardinals.
Okay.
It's Eagles across the board, and then for the most part, it's pretty much between Pittsburgh and New England.
Well, again, so those are my two teams. If you were going to ask me that question, but with what I'm saying, and here with the list Abby just made, I typically would try to make a team where it's like a team he didn't mention at all. I mean, definitely not the Bucks. I don't see there's any way the Eagles beat the Bucks, but like the team like the Bills be my one team that I fade or something like that. Because put it like this, hypothetically. First of all, we know this game that the Bills are going to play is going to be in bad weather.
Yep.
Right? Okay.
Well, cold weather.
Cold weather.
However you want to call that.
Cold weather. And Josh Allen has even said himself his feet get numb, or he has some kind of complaints playing in the cold, right? Say Josh Allen doesn't have a great game. The Patriots are good stopping the pass. And say for some reason Devin Singletary or Miles don't have a good game, or they split, so neither of them have a really great game. And the Bills lose.
Yep.
Fading the Bills would have been a great play.
Yep.
And nobody's doing it.
Nobody's doing it.
That's the thing. And it's that easy. And then you look back after the fact and be like, damn, why not even consider this?
It's so obvious.
It was so obvious.
But this is the issue with that. This is the issue that I have with that, and I don't think that that's a bad strategy whatsoever. And my approach to playing this playoff challenges, when all this started, I think when we started initially talking about the playoff challenges, probably 2 or 3 weeks before the NFL season ended, I was like, man, based off of the teams that are gonna be in, I was like, I have a pretty good sense of like who's gonna like advance. I think this is like week 17. I was like, I feel very confident. And then week 18 happened, and then we had our final bracket, and I was like, man, I do not feel confident. I do not feel confident. So the way that I'm approaching is like, look, it's the NFL. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
We're always surprised. We're always shocked. There's always upset. There's always an unspeakable that happens. Injuries happen. Then throw in COVID. Throw in all these other things that could happen.
Yeah.
So you gotta, as a player, you gotta figure out, okay, number one, like how much money can I lose and not feel like just completely just like devastated by.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out as we speak.
Two, like, can I play this and have fun? If you can't have fun, I feel like you should not be playing the playoff challenge because just too much can go on as far as like, especially because it's such a large field and there's only so many different ways where you can, deviate. And then 3, you got to decide, like, are you someone who's like, I want to deviate, I only want to play a couple teams, but these couple teams are going to be zebras. And I'm fine if they don't hit, but man, if they hit, I'm good. And I know that I'm doing that, And for me, I'm like kind of the opposite. I'm like, okay, look, I just want to go based off of what I think. And hopefully what I think is just off a little bit. And I have like, like I don't have any Mike Evans, It's pretty much all Fournette and then maybe a Gronk here. And basically no Brady, Same thing with like a Mixon. Like I have like pretty much almost all Mixon.
You, like giving like actual.
Man, I don't care. People don't listen to me. That's what I've learned. People don't really. I think remember when I was throwing out, Brandon Cooks, and I was throwing out.
Are we going to talk about these matchups a little bit? Or is that what we're talking about now?
Well, so that was going to be my next question, which was actually going to be just a little more pointed than that, which was, if you had to think about like the actual games and the matchups to come.
Yeah.
Which matchup do you think is going to decide it? Like if you had to look back at the end of the season, which game do you think is going to decide the winner? What's going to be the most
this wild card weekend?
Just in general. Like, what do you think is going to be the game to decide?
It's got to be that Dallas-San
Francisco.
It's got to be that Dallas-San Francisco game.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah. I think so, too.
And I thought I was different from everybody else and thinking, okay, I think San Francisco is going to take this, but I think it may be 50-50.
I think most of us think San Francisco.
Yeah, I think most of us think that, which is weird.
And again, it goes back to what I was just saying. I thought I was on the minority, but now I'm hearing more people talk like I'm talking. Maybe most people are thinking the Cowboys are going to lose.
Yeah, which is sad. And I'm like, this is not even coming, like, this is not the Cowboy hater in me talking whatsoever.
It makes it so difficult to make lineups because I've made a lot of lineups with no Cowboys.
Actually, and that's and they've mostly been the partial fade. Yeah. But I have a lot of lineups that don't have any Dallas skill players.
Yeah. But then I'm like, man, but I could easily see them winning, of course. They're the favorites. They're at home.
And the other thing that makes them an easy fade from a skill position player standpoint is that, like, so many different players can go off on any given game.
Right.
You can see a game where Schultz catches 2 touchdowns. You can see a game where Amari Cooper goes off. You can see a game where CeeDee Lamb goes off.
Well, Zeke goes off, really.
Where Zeke goes off, or where Tony Pollard goes off.
Yeah.
So I have one Dak team, and then I think I have, and this is where I'm differentiating. I have one Cooper team because I think if they do lose against San Francisco, I like Cooper's matchup, over CeeDee Lamb's based off of cornerback matchup.
Are we gonna go through all these matchups?
Not all
I
of
do
them.
have thoughts on every single matchup I want to get out.
But let's talk about the Bengals-Raiders game. Okay. Why not that being the most critical? The Bengals, right?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's fine.
Is this a Darrell versus?
No. We don't got time.
Versus the Raiders. Why isn't that the most important game? I mean,
wait, but what do you mean by important though? I think every game is important
to get right though, because the thing is,
you're right. I think that's one too.
Jamar Chase, let's be honest, is the reason why a lot of guys made a lot of money during the regular season, especially during that playoff run. He went off. I think that game, getting that game right, is probably the most important thing because I can also see Hunter Renfrow being the
Josh Jacobs.
Or Josh Jacobs.
Okay.
That's a game I'm hedging.
Again, are we going to talk about these matchups?
Let's talk about the matchup.
Let's talk about this matchup. And I'll tell you how I feel about this matchup.
Go ahead.
I don't think Josh Jacobs has the greatest matchup, first off. I don't think he's going to be as successful. I think the Bengals run defense is going to be able to contain him. Now, I might be totally off. I'm just saying how I see the game.
Yeah.
Hunter Renfrow scares me. Now, Hunter Renfrow ended the season well, but also I want us to also take into consideration that Waller was gone for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And with Waller now coming back, Waller was the safety blanket for Carr, beginning of the season. It wouldn't be so. Now, I'm not saying Renfrow is gonna be totally eliminated, but I think Waller's gonna eat into all those targets we were getting from Renfrow so much, and then touchdowns are fluky. So I'm a little nervous about Renfrow. I think Waller's in a great spot. As far as the Bengals, I like all their options. I actually think the Bengals are gonna beat these Raiders. Like I don't even think it's gonna be much of a question.
Right.
Personally, and
Me too.
I do think all the skilled players are viable.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are probably going to kind of venture over to the Chase side with things, but I don't think people should forget how well Higgins has played near the back end of this season. Burrow is almost one of those quarterbacks now where it's like he's just throwing it to the guy who's open and everybody's open because Boyd gets work too. Boyd scored a touchdown, I think, at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. So it could literally be any of them. I do think the field is mostly going to be on Chase, which allows you to pivot to Higgins if you want to do that. But I do think the Bengals are going to pretty much take care of this game. I think something is to be said with the emotion that the Raiders went through on this last game.
Oh, yeah.
That end of the game, going through all that overtime, late night game.
Yeah.
Not knowing who they're going to play,
Mm-hmm.
because if it's tied, it was going to be the Chiefs. If they win, it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people were saying there was a consideration during the game where they were like, let's tie.
Yeah.
And
flying across the country, too.
Right.
Y'all got a lot of good reasons why
that's just how I see it. Because here's the thing with these playoff challenges anyway, and we didn't mention this at all. Maybe we did mention it. The way I approach it, you have to tell yourself a story as far as how the playoffs is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can hedge and probably be in the mix, but to truly be at the top, in my opinion, you have to say this is what's going to happen, and it has to play out as close to that as possible to win. And if I'm going to do that, I got to not say, okay, this team is winning this game, this team is winning this game. Mm-hmm. When I see that Bengals game, keep in mind the Bengals have been, offensively, like outscoring everybody, like crazy numbers offensively. Mm-hmm. So I do think they're going to succeed on that side of the ball. The question is, how are they going to be able to hold back the Raiders, in my opinion? Mm-hmm. And I just see them as being able to do so. So that's why I see that game playing out that way. But, I know you think the Raiders have a higher chance of winning.
I think it's a 50-50.
Yeah.
And I don't have a lot of data, stats. I think all the points you brought up are valid. Them playing late Sunday night, got to play away.
I'm not saying I wasn't saying gospel. I was just saying that's how I just
seeing. No. I understand. There's something about this Raiders team that I've just been seeing like over the last few weeks, and to me it really started when they beat the Colts. The way that they beat the Colts, and really, when I'm looking at the games, like I think it's easy to sort of get caught up in some of the highlights and get caught up in like some of the magic, the 300-yard performance by Chase, but you can't forget what happens like throughout the game.
300 yards?
200 yards.
I'm about to say,
200 yards.
It's like 280.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous. Gosh. But let's not forget that like the Chiefs were winning like the majority of that game. The Chiefs started off like on fire, and then it was Chase and Burrow that kind of brought them back. But if you watch some of the individual plays in that game, like, some of it was like just the defense, like the Chiefs defense just being bad. Like Chase caught like it was like a dig route or something, and basically just like ran past 3 or 4 guys because they took bad angles. There was one where he just kind of mossed a guy. So like, and I'm not taking anything away from the Bengals or anything like that, but I think the idea is that I think people are, approaching it from a standpoint of, man, since he's hot, they've just been running over people. And really, I don't think that that's been the case. They also played a Baltimore team that was just ramshacked with just injuries, especially in the defensive backfield. Yeah. So when I see this Raider game, I see a Raiders team that I think has a defense that people don't want to give much credit. Crosby is a problem when it comes to the pass rush. Yeah. And for whatever reason, that dude, his motor, if you just watch that Chargers game, going into overtime, watching him just still constantly get to the quarterback, you know, to me that's going to be potentially an issue. But I also like what they do from a defensive end in terms of limiting the pass catchers. You know, being able to take away the
secondary.
I'm not saying I love their secondary. I think they do a good job.
Respect them.
I respect them, exactly.
Okay.
I respect them enough to not think that Burrow's going to go in there and put up like 300 plus.
I think
that's
where we have the biggest difference then, because I do think because I think they lost Jonathan Abram to injury.
Yeah, that was a while back. Though.
Yeah, I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks ago. I think it was the Cowboys game.
But I think it's more of a mixing game. So the way that I approach it is I think I'm definitely more overweight on mixing, but I do have a few Chase lineups. I'm not going to play the Chase Higgins game. I don't think there's a wrong or right answer there. But I'm just like, look, I'm just going to pick 2 and that's it. But what I've done is like, because I figured out, okay, I feel like you said, I had this plan in my head where Dallas loses or this team loses. I'm okay hedging in this game because I do think this game is still going to be high scoring. So if I chose Mixon, then I choose Renfro or Waller as my hedge. Because you got to have one team. You got to roster one team that's going to lose. That's only going to play one game.
I love Waller this week.
And then if I choose Chase, then I probably am going with Josh Jacobs. So like that's how I'm playing that.
So real quick, so I like Mixon too. And again, going through my little lab process, I like Mixon too. I like Mixon just off the jump because if you really look at the slate, in my opinion, Mixon is really the top running back on the whole slate.
Yep.
He's like the slam dunk, which scares me.
Right.
Because I feel like everybody thinks that way then.
Right.
Everybody's going to think Mixon is the player running back.
Yeah.
So that's one reason why I'm like maybe trying to look at like a Chase or a Higgins. Another reason though I was on Mixon was I looked at the player props. And we talked about it before the season, how valuable, for me at least, player props are. It basically says what Vegas thinks is going to happen as far as what the median is or the mean, I guess. So Vegas has Mixon, I think, 4.5 receptions and like 100 total yards. To me, that's a great game.
That's a great game. And he scored a touchdown?
And I think the touchdown, like, maybe it was 0.5 or 1.5. No, it was 0.5. It was 0.5. But anyway, he just had a good player prop profile. So it's like, this is a great pick. But again, with knowing everybody's on Mixon, I've been trying to look at, on an alternative route.
In DFS or in the playoff challenge?
Playoff challenge.
Oh, you think people are on Mixon in the playoff challenge?
I think everybody's on Mixon.
Okay.
And I've been seeing like some tweets. People tweeting about the playoff chat. People are like Mixon. What was something that I saw? Who they playing? The Raiders.
Yeah, Raiders.
Somebody
and they beat the Raiders and they'll play the
Mixon,
Titans.
The ship chasing. They put a tweet out where they were interviewing Sean Siegel. Is that his name? He's a guy that was real big on zero running back. He was talking about how he's like, man, if it was me, I wouldn't play any running back if I didn't have to. Like if it was all flex, it would have been all receivers at tight end he would have played.
In the playoff challenge?
Yeah. He's like the only running back he really likes is Mixon. Like so that just comes telling me people are thinking that way.
Right.
But I like Mixon too for those reasons. But just to be contrary, I just try to figure out a way to kind of be away from that. I like Burrow too because if the Bengals win, or the Bengals are thirsty, right?
If they win, they would play the Titans.
If they play the Titans.
And Titans, you can pass on the Titans. It's very difficult to run against the
I
Titans.
think they could beat the Titans.
And then if they beat the Titans, then they're playing the Bills or the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And I think they could beat them.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like
I have two Burrow
I looked
teams.
at Burrow, I was like, man, this dude could be the guy that literally takes you all the way.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be surprising, but I don't know.
Speaking of high-scoring games, let's move on to the Pittsburgh-Kansas City game. I think that game can be high-scoring as well because, listen, I know Big Ben is on his last leg, but, hey, every pass could be his last.
Man, go look at his last two playoff performances.
Right. So, hey, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, to me, I think I like Najee because I don't think that the Chiefs can stop the run game, and they do a lot with Najee, but who are you guys actually fading on Pittsburgh?
So, the only Pittsburgh player that I'm rostering is Najee, and then I have a little bit of Boswell. Other than that, it's either Najee. I think I have maybe, a few shares here and there.
You're not touching Deontay?
No.
Interesting.
And again, I'm not saying that it's a bad play, but
No, I got you.
I just feel like there's just going to be so many dump-offs to Najee in this game. They're going to really try and, they're going to start off trying to like run down, slow the clock, run some time off the clock, try and establish a run, do the typical stuff. And they'll try some screens and some dump offs here or there. I don't want to say Ben's done. I hate the idea of, us as analysts saying, oh, he had a trip booked and he was just ready. His mind, like, you don't know what these players are going through. Like, these are athletes. This is like literally what they've done.
That's fair.
You think that he doesn't want to win this game? To me, that's like ridiculous. But either way, like, his arm is still his arm. Like, it is what it is. Like, we have 18 weeks of watching him go through what he went through. And so I expect Najee to be a big part of that. So
the only reason I had hesitation, because I'm more on Deontay this week, not only because of the fact that you're playing the Chiefs, you expect a high-scoring game, which means the opposing team's going to have to pass. Mm-hmm. Deontay's the number one receiver. It just kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. But one thing, and this is kind of galaxy braining it a little bit, but is with the Chiefs pass rush, I think is effective to some extent. Mm-hmm. Chris Jones, they have guys that can rush the passer. And we all know even going back to the beginning of the season, we were talking about how the Steelers' offensive line is not their strength.
Right.
They have a weak offensive line. So I'm a little concerned, and again, this might be just me galaxy braining it, but I'm concerned Najee might have to be utilized to help with the pass rush a little bit.
You have 18 weeks of that not happening.
No, right. But they haven't played consistent teams with a pass rush like that. And there have been a fair amount of games where Ben has struggled to get out, like he's been sacked a lot.
But if they're struggling with the pass ruch, then it's probably gonna go to Najee. I feel like those are dumb.
No, but what I'm saying is, if they I think they might need Najee to help out, because I've seen times when he's been pass blocking too.
Yeah.
So if they might have to go down the field.
Yeah, like if
it's
a high scoring game, they need to pass every play. I mean, they can try to do dump offs, but if the pass rush is coming, I mean, there's only so much they can do.
But here's the thing, though. We all assume that it's going to be. Are we sure that this Kansas City offensive line can stop that Pittsburgh defensive line the way that they looked last week? Are we sure that they're going to be able to put up?
We'll see.
Kansas City is not losing this game.
All right.
This is the thing too. Is like that, and I know the Steelers have had injuries and they're getting healthy now, but still their run defense has just been a sieve. Mm-hmm. Okay, so expect some Williams, expect some Gore.
I think Darrell Williams is a great matchup.
He's
my DFS. Darrell Williams, DFS.
Well, I mean they got 3 backs now, but
you're McKinnon,
right.
Yeah, Darrell Williams. Well, shooting the 2 now.
They'll have enough mixed in, and then you have to worry about Hill. You got to worry about Kelsey. Like the offense, I think is working the way. Like I feel like Mahomes and Andy Reid, and this was we talked about. I think whether it was third quarter or fourth quarter, that they were going to figure it out. Like I was not worried about the Chiefs figuring it out. I felt like every offense comes to a bump in the road where defenses have enough film, and then you just have to do what you have to do, and you have to adjust. And you have an elite quarterback, you have an elite play caller, and offensive mind, and Andy Reid, and they were able to adjust. So I see no issues with the Chiefs winning this game.
Yeah. Again, Darrell Williams, DFS. That's Deo's DFS pick. Just putting it out there.
Let's talk about the last game: Philly, Tampa Bay. Listen, everybody's fading Philly. I think that's chalk, right?
I would assume so, yeah.
But let's talk about that matchup for a second.
They can win that game, though.
Can you see a scenario where they win that game?
I don't see any scenario
because
whatsoever.
I don't think that the Bucs are anywhere near as good as they were last year, but I also feel like that offense at times struggles mightily. Like mightily. And again, this kind of goes back to my earlier point. If you look at the final score, they played, who was it? Who did they play last week? The last week of the season.
After the Jets.
Was it the Jets that they played?
The Jets was the AB game.
Yeah, okay. I think
they played the Panthers.
Okay, the Panthers. Yeah, the Panthers and the Jets. Really look at both of those games.
Yeah.
If you look at the final score, you think to yourself, okay, man, they just routed them. It was a walkover. But if you actually watch that game, you actually watched Brady and that offense struggle until it was time to sort of kind of kick it in the second gear. And granted, the Panthers are a tough defense, but they also had some issues with the Jets. And I think the loss of Godwin and now Antonio Brown, and even add in Cyrus Grace, I don't think people really understand how big a loss that is. And they don't have a true, powerhouse run game that they can lean on as well.
Right.
So now you gotta lean on an older Gronk. You gotta lean on a beat up Mike Evans, a Brashad Perryman who was cut by the Lions, Tyler Johnson, young players, and a Cameron Brate, and then hopefully a healthy Fournette. I just don't think this is in their defense. I keep bringing this up. Their defense is not as good as people think it is. So the only reason that I'm not giving Philly much of a chance because Philly's strength is running the ball. And, Tampa Bay's defensive strength, one of their few strengths, is stopping the run. So I think that's kind of where the rubber meets the road. So unless Hurts can, find some success through the air, it's just going to be a very tough path for them to win. But after that, it's going to be some struggles for the Bucs, I think.
So my thing is, first of all, and I didn't speak on this earlier, I kind of did with the player props, but I do look at Vegas lines in general. Kansas City has the highest Vegas line, double-digit favorite. The next highest favorite is the Bucs, 8-point favorite. So Vegas almost thinks, even over a touchdown, Vegas pretty much thinks the Eagles have no chance. But when I just look at the matchup, again, like you just said, the Buccaneers' defense's strength is stopping the run. They're getting a little bit healthier in the secondary. But, if they're good at stopping the run, I don't think Jordan Howard or Miles Sanders is going to be productive. And, of course, they can break one, any time. But as far as a steady, they're not a sieve defense, so it's going to be something they're going to have to work towards. So to win the game then, or to even be, in the game, they're going to have to pass the ball. And, we've gone through the Jalen Hurts experience this year. We saw what he is. And he's not somebody I feel like we can just trust, even when the pressure's on him. I don't think he's one of those quarterbacks that the pressure's on him, he just kind of just overcomes. Like, I've seen him be subdued. This is his first playoff game. Yeah. The Eagles weren't even like 2 weeks ago, they weren't even sure they were going to make the playoffs.
Yeah. Right.
I still don't feel like he has chemistry with any player except for maybe Goddard. Maybe,
Yeah. Let me add this one last point, though.
Okay.
If you go back to when the Bucs played the Eagles earlier in the season, and Bucs routed them, but late in that game, they were running the ball, and they were running the ball very effectively. That was a game where they were just like, people were like, why don't you guys just run the ball? And literally they were just passing. Yeah. And I think that's when they finally made the transition.
That's when the crowd started cheering because they finally ran the ball.
Yeah, that was the game that was like the first game where they, the first game, that was the game before they made that transition.
But wasn't Vita Vea hurt that game though?
No. I think he ended up getting hurt that game. But still, I think during there was parts in that the last few drives where they were very successful on the ground. But the only reason I'm bringing that up is because Eagles probably have one of the best rushing O-lines in the league. So if there is a team that can have some success against in terms of running the ball, and other teams have had success too, but if there is a team that can have some success, and you have a quarterback who also is a threat, it's potentially the Eagles. And it's not just Miles Sanders, and I don't know how effective Miles Sanders is going to be with the injury. Yeah. And it's not just Jordan Howard. It's also Boston Scott. So there's multiple ways that they can beat them. So, we'll see. We'll see.
The question for me is really on the other side to me. If the Eagles' pass rush can't get to Brady, I think he's going to chop him up.
Yeah. But their secondary,
their secondary is fine. Slay is great,
And this is why I have zero Mike Evans.
But if they give him pressure, if they don't pressure Brady,
that's true.
He's going to find who he needs to find. Yeah. And again, this is, they won the Super Bowl a few years ago, but the team they have now doesn't have experience. Yeah. Like the Bucs. Keep in mind, the Bucs brought it back everybody from last year's Super Bowl run. Yeah. These guys have high aspirations. They're not even thinking, it could possibly end to now. They're thinking further.
And they got to get pressure with a 4-man rush.
Right.
You cannot blitz Brady.
Right.
You got to get pressure with a 4-man rush. That's how you beat Brady.
Yeah. So let's talk about the last game. I don't ever remember a playoff game being on a Monday night. But
it was the first time ever.
Yeah, but the Monday night game, Arizona.
MLK holiday too, Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah, MLK. Arizona, Rams. Let's talk about that game for a second. It seems like everybody who's playing in the play, everybody's rostering Cooper Kupp, right? Like you cannot not roster.
I tried
Cooper
to get
Kupp.
off of him too.
You cannot.
I couldn't.
Yeah, I have 100%. That's one. I'm just not playing. Why? Why?
Yeah.
I guess you could go Stafford, but why?
No, not the way Stafford has looked these last couple of weeks, man.
Which makes it hard to just kind of go all in on the Rams.
Just roll with Kupp and just keep it moving, man.
Yeah.
just like
that's what I'm saying. You got to just have your core, and that's what I do. I just have my core, and then I'll change a little bit here or there. Let me get a little Singletary, a little Diggs, a little Allen, but when it comes to Kupp, Adams, with the exception of winning my Rodgers lineups, and Debo, like those are just the guys. Just the guys.
Yeah.
So what about Arizona?
I do think. Oh, you were actually about to say it. I do think Arizona might struggle.
Yeah, they do not look
both
good.
running and passing.
Yeah.
So when I was initially making my builds, I actually had a lot of Ertz. I feel like Ertz was in a great spot. He's actually been the de facto number one receiving option for the Cardinals with Hopkins being out. Wesley's been putting in work, and Wesley was one of my dynasty sleepers a few weeks back, so I'm kind of happy about that. But the major threat has been Ertz. And remember, the playoff challenge is tight end premium. So I was like, man, this is perfect. Like, hell yeah, Ertz across the board. But the more I looked into it, man.
Low A-dot recently.
Low A-dot, but I don't know if I give the call much of a chance at all.
No. It's Kyler Murray, and I keep saying this. I keep bringing it up. Like, and I said it last year, and we were hoping, like we were high on him this year because we were hoping he was going to take that next step, and he really hasn't. He's just not there as a passer. You know, if you watch, like his passes are either
a glass ceiling, or you feel like he just.
I don't know what it is. I don't like it. I don't like his.
He was hurt for a lot of the season, so it's hard for me to really.
It's not even just that. Like
him, but.
He does not read defenses very well. I don't know if it's because of his short stature, but it's either
maybe he relies on his.
It's either a 50-50 ball or a certain like bubble screen that was set up, or he's trying to hit Ertz, his safety blanket. I just rarely see him go through his progressions and find open guys. Yeah. I also don't like their offensive coordinator. I think they do a better job of running the ball because they have to. But to me, Kyler, like, if he's not running, if there's not DeAndre Hopkins there, an elite wide receiver to just sort of kind of bail him out, he's just an average quarterback, and against a pretty good defense like the Rams, you're right. Like, I just struggle to see them win that game. The only way they lose that game is if Stafford throws a bunch of 6 picks.
Exactly.
That's the only way they lose that game.
And the crazy thing is, and I said it just a second ago, Wesley has been operating almost like their number one or number two wide receiver. Wesley, who was nothing for the majority of the season, undrafted guy, was let go by the Ravens. He came out of Texas Tech. So that's really why he's getting this work. He has the knowledge of the Kingsbury system from college because he played literally under him. But he's acting like he's their main receiver.
But look at all his routes. They're not even the D-hop routes. And I agree with you.
No, they're not.
They're basically nines and fade routes.
Right.
Like, they're basically throw it up and you go jump and get it.
If that's their main guy, exactly. It ain't going to work. It ain't gonna work. Like, I honestly, and man, I need to look into it. I was waiting to get word on Hopkins. Like, is Hopkins in?
I told y'all that.
Yeah, AJ Green done.
AJ Green is done.
He's done. He had a few little moments here and there, but
man, I don't even care.
But this was the time for him to really shine.
His few little moments were like the push off, the one that he got caught on.
Crazy.
He is done.
I don't even think about him. I was thinking more about Kirk as the other guy. I forgot all about AJ Green.
I don't know what happened with Kirk. Kirk is just not. Kirk is not it.
He has some moments as well.
He has moments, but he's not it.
Towards the end of the season, he just faded.
Yeah, he faded. Yeah. But yeah, man. So if the Cardinals are using that type of offense, and then Connor being out, now I like Chase. Well, Connor looked good, man. Yeah. And Connor has that goal line, acumen. Yeah. Chase has like one touchdown this year?
Maybe.
I know there's a time he had no touchdowns. That was the big thing. So, like,
they need to be able to run the ball. If they can't run the ball against the Rams,
they're not going to
win. They need Connor because they need Connor and Chase, and they need to be able to run the ball. If they cannot run the ball, they're going to have issues.
Who do you think Ramsey covers?
I think he just moves around. I don't think
he don't even respect anybody enough.
No, there's nobody to respect.
These scrubs, just whoever comes to my side,
Honestly, I think
who wants to be the sacrificial lamb?
He'll just be moving around. I think on third down he'll probably cover Ertz.
Gotcha.
And I think they'll be smart about it too. I think it'll be on like pivotal third downs. It'll be like on, in the fourth quarter. Yeah, exactly.
Damn, the Cardinals have no shot, bro.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns for.
I like him this week, though. I like him this week in DFS.
2 touchdowns.
Nobody will be on him because I don't think that Connor will play, but I'm not 100% sure.
No, I think they said Connor's going to be out. Or maybe game time decision. I don't know.
He's a game time decision right now, but he hasn't practiced all week.
Yeah.
So, last question for the night. Who is the player that is most likely to disappoint players in this tournament?
Zeke.
Nah.
I have 0. I haven't even thought about Zeke.
Yeah, Zeke. I really like Elijah Mitchell this week. I do want to put that out there. Yeah. I really, really like him this week.
All right.
But Zeke.
Player most likely to disappoint, AB.
Let me explain myself, though.
Go ahead. Let me explain myself because I got to think about
and the reason I say is because, and me and Dorsey were talking about this, when we were first talking about the Cowboys, because Dorsey's a Cowboys fan, right?
Yeah.
So we were like, who is the player on the Cowboys people will really like to play?
Yeah.
You know? And we talked about, so when we think about this, we usually think about the passing game. So we talk first about their passing game. CeeDee Lamb, the highest touted receiver, but he only had 3 catches last week. So that lets you know you can't trust him. Again, I talked about Schultz with Jarwin coming back. His role went down, decreased. So then we're like, okay, Amari Cooper is a consideration, maybe, maybe, but with the passing game, the Cowboys, they can mess around and be Cedric Wilson, So we're like, okay, Zeke is the guy, bam, and he came to the same conclusion. But then the more I started thinking about it, number one, Pollard's coming back. Number two, I don't think the 49ers are going to let them run on them like that. I think Zeke might be a trap play because he's not getting enough passing work. If he doesn't score a touchdown, he's not. And if the Cowboys lose, again, I think the Cowboys are going to lose.
Right.
If those 3 things happen, Zeke's going to be a dud. But I think a lot of people are considering Zeke as the Cowboys play.
Especially when you look at the landscape of running backs. Like
Zeke
Zeke
is one of the few you would consider.
Right.
So I feel like he's the one that's going to sink people's lineups because I think he's going to be played a lot. So that's the only reason why I think Zeke.
All right.
I mean, I agree with you. I have 0% Zeke, but I'll choose somebody else. I'm gonna go with Mike Evans.
Oh man.
Okay.
So from and this is one of those places where I've been able to differentiate, and this is why I'm going chalk across the board everywhere else, or in many places anyway. I have pretty much mostly Fournette. So I'm basically going to roll the dice. I know it's a hammy. I know it can get aggravated at any point. I know he may not be 100% healthy.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. Like, if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. And I just sit back and I do it and I become a fan. but yeah, I don't like the matchup against Darius Slay. Mike Evans, to me, just kind of watching him is, he's just he's a warrior. He's just battled through injuries. He does not look 100%. They played some suspect, defensive back recently with Carolina being, having some injuries back there, and the Jets defensive back. So he's performed in those respects. But Darius Slay's been playing, pretty elite all year.
Yeah.
And the opposing corner, I think, is Nelson. Has really not been playing elite, which is why I've been kind of loading up on some Perryman shares in some of these drafts, but. So I see Mike Evans struggling, and then one thing that you can do against the Eagles is destroy them with tight ends. I feel like they just don't realize that tight ends can actually catch passes. So I think it'll be like a Gronk and break game. You brought up DFS. Look at Cameron Brate as like a DFS tight end pump play, and I think it'll be a lot of Fournette dump offs and catches. That's why I love Fournette, because I feel like he can have 5 or 6 catches per game. I feel like he's it for their goal line. If healthy, I feel like he will be the guy. So Mike Evans for me. And I think people have been throwing around that there's not a lot of good running backs. I don't know. Maybe I'll have a maybe
who the running backs you like, champ?
I mean,
former champ.
Oh man,
has been champ.
Wash King. That's what.
Remember that time, champ? Remember that time he was a champ?
Well, back in 2019.
Sit down, let me tell you a story, kids.
Back in the day.
No, man, we're going to name this episode Washed King. #Washed King.
Man, who dethroned me? I need to reach out to who dethroned me. I'm coming for you, man. I'm looking for every league that you were in.
Yeah.
He'll probably play one team again and win it again. But no, as far as running backs, I like Devin Singletary actually a lot.
Okay.
Do
you think the Bills beat the Patriots?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
I agree with you. How confident are you in that?
I'm about
I don't even know how to quantify that. Okay.
75%.
What am I going to do with that information? Oh, okay. It makes sense now.
75% confidence interval. I also like, and I'm okay with if you want to play Damian Harris as one of those variant plays.
No, my God,
because he's done well. He's
still
done very
relevant.
Well.
Thank you, Damian Harris.
He's done well. He's done well against the Bills, very well against the Bills.
Yeah.
But Devin Singletary, Joe Mixon. Derrick Henry is the only Titans player that I played, and I think I have 100%. So again, if he does not play well, if he does not play, I'm done. But Derrick Henry, Leonard
That's the
Fournette
thing that makes me
Leonard Fournette. I got
a secret I want to say when you finish.
I don't have Aaron Jones, but oh my God, Aaron Jones could easily blow up in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I know everybody's going Devontae Adams, and that's and I am too as well. But Aaron Jones could easily blow up because I know people are worried about A.J. Dillon. And for the regular season, that's why we were on A.J. Dillon. Right. But for the playoffs, Aaron Jones can do it all.
The whole point was to spell him for the playoffs.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I don't think the Packers are going to be in a situation where they can say, okay, let's just spell you. I think they're going to say, let's get our best player on the field. And the thing about Aaron Jones is, yes, A.J. Dillon can catch passes. Yeah. Yes, A.J. Dillon is a beast between the tackles, but he's not as good as Aaron Jones. Yeah. Not between the tackles, not in terms of catching the ball, and not even on the goal line. Like Aaron Jones he's not on the goal. People think because he's a bigger back. No, Aaron Jones has – the thing about Aaron Jones is like you have to worry about him as a pass catcher. Mm-hmm. You have to worry about him in so many ways. So on the goal line, you can just, immediately try to blast through these rushing lanes, but then you hurt yourself because he could easily kind of, run out into the flat. Right. So, and then he just has a knack of finding the end zone. So what I see a scenario where LaFleur is like, look, Aaron Jones, we saved you all year. Take us home. And Green Bay, again, I don't think they're going to be in games where they're just going to be blowing people out. Right. So Aaron Jones could just take away, could just really smash. And teams could say, look, we've seen enough tape on Devontae Adams. We've seen his back shoulder throw. We've seen these fades. We just got to double cover him and take him out. Right. We got to double bracket him and take him out. And then it ends up being a Lazard game because I know not many people are rostering Lazard. And if they're double bracketing Devontae Adams, that means that there's one less guy that's looking at Aaron Jones. So now I got to get an Aaron Jones lineup. I didn't talk myself into that. I got to get an Aaron Jones lineup. Yeah.
Let's talk about Derrick Henry for a minute because I think you wanted to say something about Derrick Henry in Tennessee.
Oh, my secret?
Yeah, go ahead.
My secret is I'm strongly considering. And I've actually I got 6 lineups. Okay. So at first I had them in all. Then I was like, man, I started thinking it through. I was like, man, I'm going to take them. I'm going to take them out of all of them. So I had 0. Now I'm 50%. All right. I think I might fade the Titans as a whole.
Me too.
Damn.
But I think I put it into the group chat. Like see the Bengals.
Okay.
Everybody's fading the Titans.
There goes me thinking I'm over here in the minority, but you say other people thinking this.
I think everybody's fading the Titans. I think the contrarian play. And honestly, when you look
at the
crazy
Titans, if you think about it though, the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
But people don't view them as the number 1 seed because of all the injuries they had. But if you actually go pull up the Titans win-loss records, they've actually beat elite teams in the league, even without Derrick Henry. Yeah, and the thing is like their defense is actually
But I'll say this: that point you just made, I saw a stat online the other day where Deontay Foreman's been doing so well. Mm-hmm. He's almost been doing not Derrick Henry like, but like a watered down.
It's
a broke
man. Very watered down.
But still, he's been that productive. Yeah. He's been given that much rushing. Yeah. It ain't basically what I'm saying. It ain't been like since they lost Henry, they haven't gotten nothing out the running game. It's like they're still getting a fair amount out the running game. But I don't know. I thought I was the only one fading the Titans, and the fact that I'm not makes me have to reconsider that.
And when it comes to the Derrick Henry injury, based on the timeline, like he should have been ready last week.
No. He should be back.
And based on the studies, and again, Derrick Henry is like his own beast. Like given his body size, how fast he runs, etc. But based on I think the studies, I think the risk of re-injury is
pretty low.
Very low.
Here's the question,
when you wait a certain period of time, and I think he's waited that period of time.
Here's the real question you have to ask yourself. I don't think the question is whether he's ready. The question I would think you have to ask yourself is how much are they going to play him and Foreman?
I think Vrabel.
Is it going to literally be right back to what it was before?
I think so.
Or is it going to be, we heard him last time, we have another guy who's been playing pretty well, let's have them both be ready because we want to go the long.
And this is, again, where I go back to play by play. Because Foreman, yes, he'll have that one moment where he just boom. Mm-hmm. But he has a lot of moments where he's not seeing a hole or where he makes a mistake or where it's just 1 or 2 yards. Because even when they closed out on the Texans game, it wasn't Foreman. Mm-hmm. Even on the goal line, they took out Foreman. They put in Hilliard. Right. Because Hilliard was the one that was actually, doing a better job of finding the holes. Right. And even to close out that game, the last drive of the game, they put in here. So what I'm thinking about is the player himself. And I'm also thinking about the head coach. And this went back to like the Steelers days when you think of like Mike Tomlin. And when I think of this head coach, I think if he thinks his player is ready and his player thinks that he's ready, then I think he'll have close to his normal workload, which would be like, maybe it's like 90-95%, but I'm fine with 90-95%.
I mean, like we used to always say, and I don't know where I'm at this moment. It doesn't matter what we think. It literally matters what the coaches think, and we don't know what the coaches think at this moment. Yeah. Remember when the injury first happened? The concern was he was hurt for the season, right? That's what everybody was saying. He was done. He's back now. Again, Foreman hasn't just been nothing. I like me personally. I would say, okay, put him back in. He's your best threat. Let's go. But we don't know what's being discussed. We don't know what the trainer. We don't even know what his foot is like, right? We can hypothesize all we want, right? So the trainers could be like, yeah, he's good to go, but work him in.
And this is what I like about it, and this is why I have 100% of him, because I either want to be overweight on him or I want to be underweight. There are very few places in this tournament where you can be very definitive and you can just like. Be different from the field. I think a lot more people are going to be on A.J. Brown or be like you.
So, okay, that's the question I was going to ask. Do you feel like people are not going to be on Henry tough?
Yeah, I feel like enough people are going to be like you where they're just like, Titans probably not going to win. Let me fade them.
If that's true, I need to make some Henry lineups.
Yeah, that's why.
Because his ceiling is so high. I thought he would have been universally. To me, in my mind, when people thinking about, because first of all, I didn't think people were fading the Titans as a number one seed. I thought people were just naturally putting number one season.
Man, pull up my draft. Look at where the Titans are going. They're all down below the board.
Well, the second thing is, because I didn't think people were fading the Titans, I felt like people had one or two choices, AJ or Henry. And if you look back, recency bias. If you look back at last week with AJ Brown, he didn't do anything. Yeah. So people take that into consideration and be like, let me go with Henry. That's how I was just thinking. Yeah. But if you're telling me, number one, first of all, if you're telling me not everybody, people are considering fading the Titans, which I didn't think, and number two, you think more people are going to be on AJ than Henry, then to me that means I need to then consider getting on Henry. But look right here, Henry was the first running back taken.
So go back to the other draft, not this one.
No, this is the latest one.
The other one was kind of recent too.
He's the first running back taken. So that tells me that people still feel like Henry is going to be Henry.
That's true. But look who was taken before him, A.J. Brown.
Yeah. Go back to that last draft. What was A.J. Brown taking? Yeah.
Just right after him on that one.
Yeah, but
look where Tannehill was taken.
Yeah.
He was one of the last QBs taken.
But it's still kind of toss up. Yeah. People are like Henry or A.J. Brown. Yeah. It's not like people are like total or more on board with one or the other.
But enough of a 50-50. And that's why I don't want to, because when you make these lineups, it's not like you're making the exact same lineup and then you're making one change. Probably you're making 3 or 4 changes in each lineup. So I was like, look, I just want to have, for me personally, I want to have a core and live off of that core. And that way I know I'm right. And then just have a little bit of variation, elsewhere. Because or else, you can make a case for any of these guys.
You know what's crazy? Thinking about this conversation right here, there's a small chance Julio Jones could hit.
Yeah, but nobody's rostering Julio.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Because of that, he can really hit.
Yeah. He looked decent his last game.
He scored a touchdown.
And they were running him out of the slot a little bit more,
I'm looking at how low he's picked right here.
Yeah,
he's going after wide receiver threes.
Yeah, they were running him out of the slot a little bit more, which may be where you need to run Julio now.
Because honestly, I really think, Henry might do his thing, but for the Titans to be successful, if they were to make a run, to me, I feel like they have to pass the ball.
I feel like it has to be with Henry on the run.
No, they're going to run the ball, but I feel like they can't totally not pass.
Yeah.
And if they're going to pass, it's 1 or 2 players to me, AJ or...
I don't know. Ferkser went off last game. Who knows?
Ferkser went off?
Ferkser and then Nikhil, what's his name? Nikhil Westbrook. Here. Yeah, he was involved, so it was one of those deals.
Interesting.
All right, guys, it's getting kind of late. I think we wrapped
it up. Everything?
Is that it?
That's it, man.
That's it, man. This is literally the season finale.
Season finale.
There's no part 2, no part 3. This is it.
Hey, good luck, guys. Season finale.
No, not good luck to y'all.
I feel like there's
y'all had good luck during the regular season.
I feel like there's
let me have this one.
Oh yeah, there's something I want to say. And Abby said it a little earlier, but I want to touch on it. I meant to touch on it earlier when Abby was talking about he wanted to kind of look at dynasty stuff a little bit more often. And it just hit me. I was like, that's actually a good idea. I've always been kind of tell y'all to get into dynasty leagues, but maybe you don't have to play in dynasty leagues, but be aware of dynasty knowledge, because that dynasty knowledge is going to be helpful, especially if you want to just kind of get that edge. You know, you all should be trying to get edge. Everybody's always catching up. You know, you're always being walked down to some extent. So even if y'all don't play dynasty, maybe be aware of dynasty, because these players today are, I mean, and you're seeing it, like they become relevant players within a year or two, like very quickly. Yeah. You know, so just that small, just knowing about them before the field, like Elijah Mitchell, for instance, he was a very highly touted running back at Louisiana, whatever Louisiana school. He was just drafted late, but the people in the dynasty world knew he had talent, so people were still drafting him. Now, if you were to take that into your mindset when you're doing your FFPC, and the day Mostert was hurt, can be like, shoot, Mostert hurt, Mitchell, you know, because I know he has talent, rather than waiting to see it happen. Yeah. So I do think it's a good idea to consider getting a dynasty. I usually give my stashes or players to pick up, but the problem right now is most dynasty leagues are locked, so you can't even pick up anybody right now, so it doesn't really matter. So whenever we record our next one, I'll give you some guys that consider picking up anything like that.
All right, guys, that's it for tonight. Please like, rate, subscribe. We're out.
Stay ready.
Coming at the barbershop too lit. Pocket full of nickels blowing super draw. Smoother than the Cadillac with cruise control. Doing what I do, you know. Women playing hard to get as I pull up on the boulevard, flossing it. Like, ain't that boy cold? Ain't that boy cold? On something like a freezer, ain't I? Even when I seem kinda out of season, ain't I? Up to date with it. Do your thing, don't play with it. Fade away sweet like Jay did it. Swish. Summertime with a winter breeze. Summer grind on my mind, I don't get to breathe. There you go, hey.
Light on up. Put that spice off in my blood. Roll that Sprite off in my cup. And we rollin'. Better tell somebody we rollin' on it. We rollin'. Better tell somebody we rollin' on it. We rollin'. Roll right now, bounce like that. 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 Roll right now.
Coming out the crib in my house shoes. I don't even know why they call them house shoes. Should call them corner kicks. Cause you're only kicking in them on your corner shit. Cruising through the Ave in my pajama gear. Got me feeling so lavender. Out here dodging bull like a matador. Oh, I mean a matador. Got women catching piss like a catheter. You're so crazy. I should've said Kelly. I should've said only in this piece with the belly. I should've said we only carry a piece when they're jelly. Get the women in the telly and everybody be mellow. Well, I mean they be mellow. Rolling up, sipping jello. Women be saying hello, my homies be screaming, yeah. Hey girl, yeah. Where you going, little mama? Hey.
Light on up. Put that spice off in my blood. Roll that Sprite off in my cup. And we rollin'. Better tell somebody we rollin' on it. We rollin'. Better tell somebody we rollin' on it. We rollin'. Roll right now, bounce like that. 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 Roll right now. Ba 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 dum dum dum. 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 Ba 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 dum dum dum.
I ran out of breath. Shout out to Soul Dad, brother. It's good music, good loud.